Continue from last week in our topic, which says, have we accepted the third angel's message? The very first thing was to know what the third angel's message was warning us, not to worship the beast. And what it is to worship the beast, we saw it in the previous studies, that the beast changed the times and festivals in the Dark Ages. And we saw it on Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. He shall change God's religious laws and festivals. Now, the warning says he will change, and he did change them, and he introduced the pagan feasts. By us not coming back to God's laws and continuing with the pagan feasts, this is what it is to worship the beast. That's what was identified in the previous studies. So we want to continue with that. We saw the coming of the faith of Jesus, or the third angel's message, in fullness, with first Sister White introducing the 10 Commandments and A.T. Jones bringing the ceremonial law in 1888, A.T. Jones and Waggoner. The ceremonial law, how it was rejected terribly at Minneapolis. It's all chronicled in Book 1, Selected Messages, page 233, and also Book 1, Selected Messages, page 234. Read for yourself when you get those books. These are our books where we are told the history of where we are coming from. And it's our right to read all that history. We do not want to follow like millpits, to follow as if we are blind. We have to search so that we know we are actually in the right direction, whatever it costs. So now, as we continue to study the third angel's message, our question says, now then, if the ceremonial system or the festivals were rejected in 1888, what are we then saying? Have we accepted the third angel's message? And if we did not accept it, what are we doing? That's why we have a sealing message, which starts in Revelation chapter 7, which is the same which Sister White in Testimonies to Ministers, page 445, says that sealing of Revelation 7 is the same as the sealing which is seen in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 9 shows us the sealing. For those who are reading both books, you find they are all talking of the same period, our period of the sealing message. Now, this is how God now came to introduce the seal, or the faith of Jesus, which was rejected in 1888, to complete the sealing. Yes, we got the Sabbath, coming from the 10 Commandments, which Sister White proclaimed from 1844, and which we accept as a people. But what we don't accept as a people is what God now brings as the faith of Jesus, a repetition of what A.T. Jones and Waggoner was bringing, the festivals, back to the people so that they have the complete seal. And this is what we read in Ezekiel chapter 9. And the whole book of Ezekiel is how God brings that message of the faith of Jesus in our people. Not all will accept, not all. We saw from Ezekiel, when you start even from Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4 to 6, it's clear what the situation which God sees us as a people. He sees the Laodicean house very difficult and rebellious. Let's hear from Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4 to 6. Let's read from there.
And he said unto me, continues the prophet,
Right.
Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech, and of an hard language, whose words thou canst not understand.
Now, when Ezekiel is sent on our behalf, we are the ones now having that seal, that message which Ezekiel, we saw last week that Sister White said the same message which Ezekiel came with is the faith of Jesus. So when that message comes to us, God tells us clearly what type of a house we are, what type of a church we are, what type of a people receiving the seal we are. He tells us clearly that the people are not of a strange language, because they are of a language we all agree. The language which is to the law and to the spirit of prophets. We all believe in the testimonies of Sister White, on the spirit of prophets, of voice of prophet, which is there to support what the Bible is saying to us, so that we have a clearer understanding of the Bible. That's how we are a people. That's why God is talking about us, because we are of a particular language, the voice of prophecy. You can't go with these books of the SOP to other people who are not Laodiceans. They won't know who you are talking about. But when we are talking to Laodiceans, we are talking to people who accepted Sister White, who has accepted the voice of prophecy. And any quote we are taking from Sister White is acceptable as a people. It's not a book which is strange to us. That's why Ezekiel says, I'm not sending you to people with a strange language, but I'm sending you to the house of Israel, whose language you understand. Now, that's what we are reading, and we are quoting from 1 TR 13.2, second paragraph, which is point 2. Now, let us read from that book. 1 TR 14.1 there. These mandatory words, listen to that.
These mandatory words, of weighty significance to all, reveal that the message which the prophet received is only for God's people, and that therefore, by logical extension, the entire vision of which it is a part meets its fulfillment at a time in which the Lord sends forth the warning that because his church is at a very low ebb, spiritually, impudent and hard-hearted, and a rebellious house, he will do within it a work of marking and slaying.
Is it not true in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17, that judgment begins in the house of God? So this is how judgment starts, with a message from Elijah, who is portrayed here as Ezekiel, sent to a people of a language which we understand, not strange, not people who are outside Laodicea, but where the sealing is occurring first. That's where Ezekiel has been sent. And here we are told exactly the state the people are in. In other words, in Revelation chapter 3, we are told in verse 14 that they are neither hot nor cold. They are neither keeping the pagan feast nor God's feast. They're nowhere. Which is the low ebb Sister White and the spirit of prophecy is talking about. That's the low ebb. At a lower state of worshiping God. We cannot admire the state we are in to say we are now better than those who first worshipped God under the leadership of Moses. They were not at such a low ebb like us. They went out of Egypt, keeping all the statutes, all the judgments, all the commandments, all the testimonies. That's why they were all united in Mount Sinai to be given all these laws. We find that in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. It's clear to us to say, thou camest on Mount Zion and gave them the right statutes, judgments, commandments, and the right and the true laws, which are the testimonies. So God gave them all the 4 laws on Mount Sinai. Not only the 10 commandments, but 4 laws. Read for yourself Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. It says so. But now if we are only keeping the 10 commandments, and that's it, and we say no prophet, and we say no statutes, or no festivals, no judgments, that's the lowest ebb. This message finds people at a low ebb, that you cannot brag about that state which we are in. We need ourselves to open up our eyes so we can step up on the platform God has laid by the sealing process through Elijah the prophet on this time. Now, here it says, he will do within it a work of marking and slaying. Is it not true? This is the time where we are receiving the seal of God. So this is the time of marking and slaying. At last, after marking, he finishes with the slaying of those who don't have this seal. It says so in Ezekiel 9. Go past and place a mark on the people who sigh and cry for the abominations that are in Laodicea. And he says to others, and slay utterly those without the mark. Come not near any with the mark. Is it not this time? Now here, let's hear. He will do that work. And then what?
He will do within it a work of marking and slaying. And in all the Bible, there is to be found in but one church a situation as to condition, cause, time, and result answering to that of the prophecy, and that is the Laodicean church.
That's where this sealing message is directed initially. Judgment begins in the house of God. So Ezekiel is sent clearly to the Laodicean church. Now, he's taking this the position which is done by Elijah when the faith of Jesus is introduced at last, which are the festivals introduced so that we are purely keeping the third angel's message, which is the 10 Commandments and the festivals. They're complete. Now, let's read on 14.2. The condemnation of Revelation 3 verse 14. We have seen the condemnation of Revelation 3 verse 14, which says, "You are neither hot nor cold. I will spew thee if you continue to be like that. Neither for pagan and nor for God's feast." Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 7 is clear. Hear the stork in heaven. Know at the time, the turtle, dove, all know the judgment of the Lord. But my people do not know this judgment of the Lord, of knowing the times that are the festivals which God has placed for those who want to worship him in accordance to the will of God. This is what was given to Moses when they went out of Egypt. They were given a proper way to worship God, though it was accompanied with the killing of the lamb. But now the lamb has been removed from the cross. The animals were pointing to the body of Christ. We keep those times without the lamb, like we do on the Sabbath. The lamb was killed on Sabbath, but we still keep the Sabbath without the killing of the lamb. This is what we do with the festival times. That's why pagan feasts are still there. There's no killing of the lamb. And also God's feasts are there. There's no killing of the lamb. So where are you? Neither hot nor cold. Neither for pagan feast nor for God's feast. Where is Laodicea? Now here it says, the condemnation of Revelation 3. Let's read from there.
The condemnation of Revelation 3 verse 14 to 18 against the Laodiceans, and the condemnation of Ezekiel 2 verse 1 to 7 and 3 verse 4 to 7 against the house of Israel, being the same. Each therefore is the complement of the other, the one being the revelation of that of which the other is the prophecy.
So Ezekiel chapter 2 is a prophecy of what we are right now. In Revelation chapter Revelation chapter 3 verse 14. Probably let's read those two. Read from Revelation chapter 3, or let's start with the prophecy. Ezekiel chapter 2 verse 1 up to 7. You see this prophecy pointing to our time. Listen to that.
Ezekiel chapter 2
verse 1. Yeah.
And he said unto me, Son of man, stand upon thy feet, and I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and set me upon my feet, that I heard him that spake unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that hath rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day.
Right?
For they are impudent children, and stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God. And they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house,
right,
yet shall know that there hath been a prophet among them.
Right?
And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words. Though briars and thorns be with thee, and thou dost dwell among scorpions, be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house.
God has begged us not to be afraid, to say it as it is. This is Ezekiel speaking on our behalf, on behalf of those who are appointed to preach this message of righteousness by faith, or the faith of Jesus, to complete the sealing process, or what? To bring the latter rain, or what? To ignite the loud cry, or what? To complete the third angel's message. They are told, do not be afraid. God knows their state, and it's not something shocking to anyone who has been sent to preach to Laodicea. He says, say it whether they hear or they don't hear. We have been told clearly, and it's no surprise when we find people so hard-hearted. This is what God said. So impudent, this is what God said in Ezekiel, because they don't want to keep the festival or the faith of Jesus. This is why God has clearly laid it in Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 1 to 7. Now let's go to Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4 to 7. So God was prophesying in the time of Ezekiel, who was preaching on our stead, so that when we are now engaged in the work of the righteousness by faith, we know exactly who we are preaching to. We know where to direct the message, and we know where this message belongs to. We don't go haywire, go into people. God said, I'm not sending you to people of strange language. No, of the people that read what we read. Spirit of prophecy and the Bible. These are the people whose language Ezekiel was sent to. Now let's hear from Ezekiel 3, verse 4 to 7. Are they, prophesying about the state of Laodicea right now? Listen to that. Mm-hmm.
And he said unto me, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of an hard language, but to the house of Israel.
Now, it's a repetition that you should know exactly where the message of righteousness by faith should go, as it was with A.T. Jones and Waggoner, sent to the people of God, to Laodicea. And it's the same thing when the selling starts in the house of God. That's where the message goes, in the house of God. Someone is saying, why don't you go and see people who don't even know God? I say, no. We don't just do things. We know where we are sent with a message of the sealing process of righteousness by faith, which are the festivals, to be kept together with the 10 Commandments. The 2 laws which were tempered within the dark ages are the ones that God wants them back to the people. This is where this is the song of Moses when he went out of Egypt. The first thing was given, the festivals, the 10 Commandments, the judgments, all that is the song of Moses, which is the righteousness by faith. Now here they know exactly. Now let's hear them. They said this message of Ezekiel chapter 2 and Ezekiel chapter 3 is portraying as a prophecy of the state of the church right now. We want to see whether John said the same thing in Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. Let's read from Revelation chapter 3, verse 14 to 18. Let's hear. Is it now, this is now a revelation. Ezekiel chapter 2 and chapter 3 was a prophecy of the state of the church. Now, Revelation chapter 3 verse 14 is the same thing now as a revelation of what exactly Laodicea looks like. Listen to that. Verse 14.
Verse 14. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and the true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works,
Right.
that thou art neither cold nor hot.
Right?
I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked.
Is it not our words when we meet the message of the sealing of righteousness by faith? I've made mistakes. I know all the messages that will take me to the pearly gates. Is it not what we say? God chronicled all that in Revelation chapter 3, verse 14, that we don't even want to hear anything about the righteousness by faith, as it was at Minneapolis. I'm increased with goods. I can't keep the festivals. You go and keep them. I'm not going to keep them. Is it not what we say? This is what God wrote in Revelation chapter 3. It was because of the righteousness by faith that we deny and reject. And he wrote that whole passage of Revelation 3. I'm neither hot nor cold. I'm neither for the pagan. Yeah? I'm neither for God's feast or for the pagan. Nowhere. If you ask, you go elsewhere, you find people are busy also with pagan feasts. But you go to Laodicea, they'll tell you, I don't keep Christmas. Okay, if you don't keep Christmas, where's Purim? So you see, we are neither for Christmas, nor for Purim. But where are we? Where are we? Neither for New Moon. There is Whitsun or Whit Monday, whatever it is, which replaced the New Moon. You're neither for the New Moon, nor the Whitsun. So where are we? So God was, that's why he started with his biography. He says the Amen. Yeah, because he's saying the truth about what we are. You understand? He's not even dreaming about what we are. He is telling us. That's why he started with his own biography. That saith the Amen. You are neither for the pagan nor for God's feast. True. Where is the new moon? And yet Isaiah 66 verse 22 to 24 says, we will keep them in the new heaven and new earth. We continue from one new moon to another. From one feast. Who cares? Who cares? We are told, tell them whether they hear or they don't. They know a prophet has been there. This is what we have been told by Ezekiel chapter 2. It says, go and prophesy. Whether they hear or they don't, they will know that there was a prophet. So that job is done by the prophet of making sure the righteousness by faith is brought back to the people who start now to keep the festivals and also the 10 Commandments together so that they are qualified to have received the third angel's message or received the whole truth, the seal of God on their forehead. That's why it is in the sealing program of Ezekiel, which is the same as Revelation 7. Now let's go and continue on 1 TR 14.2. And we read that one. We want to continue further on 17.4 there. It's saying, continuing to behold in vision. Yeah.
Continuing to behold in vision the cherubim and the glory of God's throne. The prophet saw the Lord come to the threshold of the house, which is the church. And as he gave charge to his angel who was clothed with linen, and who had the writer's ink on by his side,
Right?
Ezekiel heard him command the man, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
That's Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. We have been reading there. So this is what the message of the righteousness by faith or the faith of Jesus, it came like that to the church. Is it not there now? Is it not the argument, the main argument which is there now? The main argument are the festivals. And where are you in that argument? Are you for or against? Then you know exactly whether you're receiving the seal or you're rejecting. Now here it says, this is what Ezekiel was sent with righteousness by faith. The festivals, which clearly Daniel chapter 7 says, these men in the dark ages tampered with the 10 commandments and the festivals. Now go to the Eastern and read in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. We want to know whether truly these are the two that were tampered with. You understand? Why would he pick on these two? It's because they give you righteousness by faith. So he picked on your righteousness. Now when that righteousness comes back, you reject. Now, Daniel chapter 7, verse 25 in Good News Version. Listen to that. So you find, if you know that the warning of the third angel's message was for you and me not to worship the beast, you should eagerly find out from the Bible what the beast tampered with. And if the beast tampered with that and you do not change it back to what it was, you truly are worshiping the beast. How else? What other language would God give you and me? Now, Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. Listen to that.
He will speak against the supreme God,
right,
and oppress God's people.
Right.
He will try to change the religious laws and festivals.
Did you hear that sentence?
Mm-hmm.
What was changed by the beast is change the religious laws and festivals. Now I'm saying the festivals are the ones that are the faith of Jesus. The 10 commandments are only commandments commanding you and me what to do and what not to do. That's our commandments. But the gospel is on the festivals. This is why the beast was so clever, touch those two, you're done. Those two were touched, were tempered in the dark ages. And God is saying, these have to go back. And he sets the sealing program for sending the festivals back. Because we are already accepting the 10 commandments. What we are rejecting are the festivals. And God has to set them back. What other language would God say? Now, here we are being told now, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So it means there is an abomination already. Right? In Laodicea, there's an abomination of not keeping the festivals. Because the warning is for us not to worship the beast. If we continue to worship the beast, we have an abomination. If we don't accept this festival, we have an abomination already. So there are people who will sigh and cry. They are actually preaching these festivals for us, debating around each other, debating and saying, we should keep this. We should. They are sighing and crying. He's preaching about them, talking about them, making sure, you are seeing these are God's times. Where are they in our syllabus? And we are being kicked here and there not to keep them. But the angel was commissioned, go and stamp those who are troubled about these festivals, troubled about them, sighing and crying. Why are they not on time? Where is the Passover? Where is the new moon? What about Leviticus 23 talking about deaths? Yeah, when it says the seventh month is Tishri. In the 7th month, there's a day of atonement on the 10th day. How do you count and find the 10th day without the new moon? Now, this is what God is saying. Go and find those who are worried about God's calendar and set a mark. Yeah. These people are just worried and talking. And Malachi saw them. Malachi chapter 3 verse 16 will tell them, those who feared God, set off and set one to another. You can't stop that. People are talking. People are talking about them. Why? Because that's a burden God has given Laodicea in the last day so that he gets those who are sighing and crying, get them sealed. That's it. And the bulk will reject the festival, as they did in the time of Noah. Only 8 received the truth of that time. Where was the rest? The bulk rejected. They don't even want to listen. They look at you like a devil or something else who's coming to disturb their peace. But God will come up with a people who are sealed. And he stands on Mount Zion with the 144,000. They have all the seals. They have been sealed. He's in a business of making sure the saints will be sealed. He's not joking. God has showed us that Ezekiel chapter 9 is bringing back the righteousness of faith that was rejected at Minneapolis. Is back now with Elijah the prophet. And behind Elijah, we can't see the invisible. It's the mighty angel, Christ himself, the 4th angel, coming with Christ with a sickle. And now Ezekiel is saying, one man had the writer's ink on, was dressed like a priest. That was the angel, the mighty angel, Christ himself seen with a sickle, bringing this message of the sealing process to make sure everyone has got the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, which are the festivals. Now here, let's see, is commissioned, go and look for those who are sighing and crying. So it means what is happening in Laodicea? We are receiving these messages of the festivals, and they are going to the people of God. Yeah, God said, my message won't go and come back void. They are looking, searching for the saints. Yeah, and some people will just say the harvest, the summer is ended. Why summer? Because the festivals are kept in their seasons. So the summer is ended. The harvest is past. We are not saved. Why? Because they were deceived not to keep the festivals, which came as the righteousness by faith to finalize God's work and to make sure you and I are sealed. Now let's hear more from this coming chapter of 1 TL 18.1. Let's hear from there. And he's quoting the verses, and it's still on Ezekiel chapter 9. We have read from verse 4. Continue with that. And to the others.
And to the others he said in mine hearing,
Right?
Go ye after him through the city, and smite.
Right?
Let not your eye spare,
Did you hear?
neither have ye pity.
Did you hear the Bible clearly said? One was commissioned to go and stamp the foreheads, make a sign of those who are sighing and crying. And he says this seal, which is being blessed, is only read by the angels. You can't even read it. Your son could be stamped while you are not. Your member can be stamped while you are not. So it's separating those who are stamped and from those who are not stamped. But fortunate, it's read by the angels. The seal of God is read by the angels. So here it says, some were commissioned. One was commissioned to stamp those who are sighing and crying. That was Christ himself with the writer's ink on, stamping those who are now sealed with the righteousness by faith, which was rejected at Minneapolis, now accepted while being preached by Elijah, the prophet. Now here to the others. Yeah, these men were 6. If you read from Ezekiel chapter 9, from verse 1, it says 6 men came. Let's read. Go to this state and read Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 1. You should know exactly how many these men, which are the angels of God, how many were there. We see one with the writer's ink on, placing a mark on verse 4. But from verse 1, you find there are more than one. Listen to that. Verse 1.
He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand.
Right?
And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate.
How many men came? 6. Now, These are all waiting for the seal of righteousness by faith to be stamped on the forehead. 6 of them came with destroying weapons. Do you see them? No, they are all standing on the doorstep of Laodicea. These are the angels. They are waiting for the message of righteousness by faith, repeated after it had been rejected when A.T. Jones and Waggoner preached in 1888. Now coming, flagged. We were told last time when we started in early writing, page 277, we were told that even angels were commissioned to come and assist, to tell the saints to come out of Babylon. This is an intense work which is being done by God in conjunction with the angels. And what we see here is the message of the righteousness by faith, of keeping the festival. This is what we see. But it's a terrible ordeal. It's a commission. It's a last movement of Revelation 18. It's a message of the 5th angel when it comes now to make sure the 3rd angel's message, which has been received, now is fully flagged with all these 4th and 5th righteousness by faith. Now, it's a terrible ordeal. Let me tell you, it's a terrible ordeal. It's not something that you should ignore. It's where you should have all your faculties engaged in this work which is happening in the sealing process. Now, if you hear that message of the festival, know for sure this is the message of righteousness by faith, to come and make sure we have received the full 3rd angel's message, flagged with the 10 commandments and the festivals, as these were the ones tampered with in Daniel 7 verse 25. But now God makes sure they are there, and then 6 men come to make sure they are ready for the slaughter of those who reject this righteousness by faith finally, because it was rejected in 1888. But this time when they reject, there are these 6 men, which are the 6 angels. Christ is going to bring them to make sure they will make a complete overhaul of the whole system. You should know this is a prophecy showing what is happening in our future. Now here, let's hear more. 6 men came on the high gate. So you now know it's not only the men with the Ragtas Incon, but there are 6. So the 6th one, listen to that. Read on.
And he called to the man clothed with linen. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, and with the writer's inkhorn by his side.
And who is that one?
And they went
It's
in.
the mighty angel, clothed with linen, like a priest, a high priest, with the writer's inkhorn, putting the seal of righteousness by faith on the forehead. Right?
And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar.
You know, those who know the sanctuary message, where the brazen altar is, in the outer court, they're standing outside. What was in the holy place? That's where the Israelites were worshiping, in the holy place, in the outer court. They are waiting at the door. But then God first commissions the men in linen with the writer's inkhorn to place a mark. Listen to the next verse.
And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite.
The same place in Laodicea. The first one with writer's inkhorn, dressed in linen. Christ himself, the mighty angel, placing the seal. But what we see, we don't see Christ. We see a mighty message proclaimed, or the gospel of the kingdom, which have been to be proclaimed in the end, which is the statutes, the festivals. That's the gospel of the kingdom. Because these are the laws that are going to be kept in the kingdom. So the gospel of the kingdom is one that is commissioned, or the statutes in Malachi chapter 4, given to Elijah to go through Laodicea. And then, mind you, there are people who are disfellowship, they're out. How do they go? They go through any avenue, be it tracts, be it CDs, be it internet, BSMTV, whatever. They should swell, because this message is going to swell into a loud cry. First, the loud cry in the church, all over the four corners. It should be one burden which God has been placing on the hearts of people to make sure they keep the festivals and complete the righteousness by faith. Now it says, go to the other 5. They are commissioned. Follow and check who is got no mark. Listen to that one. Listen to the other 5. What is the commission? Mm-hmm.
Slay utterly.
They are commissioned to go and slay.
Old and young.
Old and young.
Both maids and little children.
Maids and little children.
And women.
Uh-huh.
But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary.
Right.
Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house.
Why start with them? You remember Testimonies, volume 5, page 8, it told us clearly that this work will be done by those who have not been trained from the institutions. Why? Because those who were trained in the institution, they don't have the message of righteousness by faith. That's why God has a swap over. Now, when he starts, the angels who start slaying, they start with them. Did you see that? They started with those who are in front of the pulpit. Who are those? Who are trained from literal institutions. This is what I know. They are the ones who are standing in front. He says, start with them. And listen to that. Let's read on. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. That's a verse in Ezekiel chapter 9. Next verse, what verse is that? 7.
And he said unto them, defile the house.
Defile the house.
And fill the courts with the slain.
Right?
Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city.
Did they slay in the city? Yes, they did. And you'll be told this is not a literal slaughter. I gave you all quotations. That Sister White supports that it's a literal slaughter. First is the same book 5, volume 5, Testimonies for the Church, page 211. Will tell you clearly, Sister White tells you clearly, volume 5, Testimonies for the Church, page 211, that it is literal. And the reason why they are having this slaughter, it's there. If you want, you can have a lot of quotation from Sister White to show you it's going to be literal. There is no other clear message more than this one, which shows what we are going to go through. Even the one for Noah wasn't as clear as this one. This one is clear and is written black and white. In the time of Noah, they didn't even have the Bible. They were only listening from the mouth of Noah. But this time, we have Elijah to tell us, and at the same time, we have it written in our books. If we want to prove, we prove for ourselves. How else can God inform us? Now, let's go to 1TR 19.2. Remember, it's commenting now on Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 3 and 3, verse 5. Let's hear. Remember.
Remember that the Lord said to Ezekiel, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that hath rebelled against me. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language, but to the house of Israel. A mission which is to result in the sealing of the 144,000.
So when Ezekiel is sent, it's a mission which result in the sealing of the 144,000. But those who don't go through that seal, we are told exactly it's because they rejected the message of righteousness by faith when it is repeated by Ezekiel or by Elijah in the last day. So this is their faith. Now, let's read in 1TR 19.3. This mightiest angel, listen to that.
This mightiest of angels, says the Spirit of prophecy, has in his hand the seal of the living God, or of him who alone can give life, who can inscribe upon the foreheads the mark.
Right. So this is how the people are getting the seal, whether we like it or not. And we are commissioned to preach about it so that the people are saved. Those who will receive, and those who reject will reject and go through Ezekiel 9 slaughter. Now, we want to understand this prophecy. Who then is this mighty angel? We have a quotation from 1T, Old Testament for the Church, volume 1, page 186. Who is this mighty angel which we have seen placing the mark on the forehead? Or in Revelation 18, coming to complete the sealing process by introducing the faith of Jesus. Who is this mighty angel? Let's hear. I was shown. Listen to what Sister White was shown. Testimonies for the Church, volume 1, page 186.
I was shown that the testimony to the Laodiceans applies to God's people at the present time. And the reason it has not accomplished a greater work is because of the hardness of their hearts.
Sister White is also supporting what and confirming what Ezekiel has said, that they are hard-hearted, imprudent. They are rejectors, rebellious. But Sister White is saying, I was shown that the testimony to the Laodiceans, which we saw in Revelation 3, verse 14, that they're neither hot nor cold. Now, is a revelation of what Ezekiel said. Now, we are being told that I was shown that the testimony to Laodiceans applies to God's people at the present time, not last time. You hear them telling you that this slaughter of Ezekiel, it happened past whatever. No, Sister White saying it's now. It's present time. At the present time, and listen to the next thing. And I was shown, start from I was
shown that the testimony to the Laodiceans applies to God's people at the present time.
Right.
And the reason is it has not accomplished a greater work is because of the hardness of their hearts.
Yeah. From 1888, what happened? There was a terrible hardness of heart. And in this time, it's 10 times severe. Sister White said, when it comes, when the same message of 1888 comes, it will be ridiculed, spoken against. Exactly what happened in 1888 will be repeated. Sister White said. Now here it says, because of that hardness of heart, is the reason why the sealing has not been completed. Now read from. The heart must be
purified from sins which have so long.
Before you go there is a sentence that says, but God
has given the message time to do its work.
Now, God has given the message time to do its work. And the message itself will do its work. Finally, we see the 144,000 standing on Mount Zion. It has done its work. Let it do its work while people are rejecting it, speaking against it, ridiculing it, like what they did at Minneapolis. Let the message continue to do its work, and it is doing its work. Now it says, the heart must be purified. Listen to that.
The heart must be purified from sins which have so long shut out Jesus. This fearful message will do its work. When it was first presented, it led to close examination of the heart.
Now, when it was first presented in 1888, it led to close examination of the heart. This message, once it is proclaimed, the message of the festivals, as it came with A.T. Jones and Wagona, it makes the heart to be closely examined. But here, let's hear.
Sins were confessed, and the people of God
the
were
people
stirred
confessed their sins. And what?
Nearly all believed that this message would end in the loud cry of the third angel.
When it came in 1888, this message, nearly all believed that this message would end in the loud cry of the third angel. When they heard this message of the festivals or the faith of Jesus, nearly all knew that this message was going to lead them in the loud cry. Now let's hear more.
But as they failed to see the powerful work accomplished in a short time, many lost the effect of the message.
Now, when the message of the ceremonial system is preached, many people know it is from God, but they want God to come right away. That's what happens. Never mind those people who give up and start recanting the message. It's because they made a measure of time and thought God was going to come there and then. But when God does not come as they think, they recant and let go. You find them doing all sorts of sins. They have left the message. This is what happened in 1888. Nearly all believed the message of 1888. But why then did they reject? Listen to that. Many lost the effect of the message. Why? But as they failed to see the powerful work accomplished in a short time, many lost. So many people are excited when they hear about the festivals. I have to go and worship God in the spot of the Orion, directly close to the throne of God, adjacent to the throne of God in Jerusalem. That's why he says, come 3 times a year. We'll be direct. Why do you think the same time when Christ was enthroned on the Mediterranean kingdom on the Feast of Pentecost, there were disciples in Jerusalem who were awake? They were not in the part of the world where people are sleeping at that time. These were exactly at the 3rd hour, when the priest in heaven was also in the 3rd hour, enthroned. You see, it's a spot directly adjacent to the throne of God. Yes. That's why he wants us 3 times a year at that spot. As he did with the disciples, he told them, stay tarry for 10 more days, because it was going to make them reach the 50th day, which is the day of Pentecost. Because Christ had walked with disciples for 40 days. And then 10 more days will get them to the 50th day, which is the day of Pentecost. Why would they tarry? Why didn't he say, okay, you go back to your place on different, places? Why go to Jerusalem? Why go to this spot? Why? Why didn't he even told them? Peter came from Nazareth. He could have just said, go to Nazareth. But it was in Jerusalem. Tarry in Jerusalem. And they got exactly at the 3rd hour. And it says in Acts chapter 2, verse 5, there were so many devout men from all over the world. They were at the spot. It was the spot where they are exactly the time when it is 3rd hour in heaven is 3rd hour on earth. It's not 3rd hour in heaven when people are sleeping in Jerusalem. No, it is when people are awake and it is their 3rd hour in Jerusalem. That's the spot where Christ says, go 3 times a year, so that in these 3 feasts, we are enjoying together with him. Direct at the spot. It's not when we are sleeping, when he's awake. We are awake when it is 3rd hour in heaven, is 3rd hour on the spot. That's the most interesting thing. It's got a spiritual bearing. It's only understood spiritually. Otherwise, if you use the eye to say, let me see how strange this place is, let me see how spiritual this place is, you won't see it with your eyes, with your naked eyes. You will discern it spiritually. Now here it says, But as they failed to see the powerful work accomplished in a short time, many lost the effect of the message of 1888. But all of them accepted. But they lost the effect of that. Listen to that. I saw that
this message would not accomplish its work in a few short months.
It does not accomplish its work in just a few short months. No. You have to, you have to be patient. That's why this is the patience of the saints, of those who keep the commandments and have the faith of Jesus. It's not spontaneous like that. Now I want to keep the feast. Now, and you think everything is just like that. Chop, 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 chop. Christ will come and no. He has got to test you. He has got to see your long endurance into the truth. Many don't endure. They go back to their sins. Many don't. He has to test. He cannot just take people to go and fill in the space with the devil, which the devil left heaven as Lucifer. He left heaven with a third of the angels. He cannot just take willy-nilly any without testing. He has to test you to see how enduring you are in that message. It's not a work to be accomplished in two months or in two, and then you think now Christ has to come, and then otherwise you take the wrong people. Now here is saying, I saw that this message will not accomplish its work in a few short months. It is what?
It is designed to arouse the people of God.
This message arouses the people of God. That's the first thing. And?
To discover to them their backslidings.
And it's also meant to show you that if you are worshiping without the festivals, you are already backslidden, or you are already not worshiping God. You are worshiping the beast. This shows your backslidings. And what?
And to lead to zealous repentance.
And those who accept this message, it leads them to zealous repentance.
That they may be favored with the presence of Jesus and be fitted for the loud cry of the third angel.
That they can enjoy leading a life with the presence of Christ around them. This is the message. That's the message of the hour, brethren. This is the message that God is giving us. That's why in Malachi chapter 4, verse 6, it says, the hearts of the fathers will be turned to the hearts of the children. This is the message which unites us with Christ. That's righteousness by faith, of keeping the statutes. So you cannot just be given this message and in 2 days then Christ comes. No, it has to test you. It has to give you, it's got all these qualities. It is designed to arouse the people of God. One, when you hear about the festivals, even when you are on the computer will start shaking because people are arguing because they are being aroused. It arouses the people of God to discover to them their backsliding. It shows whoever is not keeping the festivals is not doing the right thing. It shows that. And also what else does this do? And it leads to the zealous repentance of those who say, now I need to turn and face the glory of God. That's what it does. That they may be favored with the presence of Jesus and be fitted for the loud cry of the third angel's message. That's what it does. To those who accept, they are so aroused. Two, they are led to repent. And three, they are prepared for the loud cry. This is an excellent message, brethren. I don't know what you are enjoying in this dark world. This is the message to enjoy. This one is the message to enjoy. But let's go to 1 TR 20, verse 3, commenting on Ezekiel 9, verse 11. Let's read that chapter, Ezekiel 9. And behold, listen to that.
And behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter while on earth, saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me.
Do you understand that this man reported one while on earth? Because where is the sealing message happening? On earth. So it means there is the mighty angel on earth when the sealing is going on. Mind you, we have been told by Revelation 14, verse 14 upwards, that is a mighty angel. It's Christ himself, who looked like the Son of God on earth. Because this man reported in verse 11, and behold, the man clothed with linen, which is Christ himself, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter whilst where? On earth. Saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me. That's in Ezekiel 9, verse 11. What had this man done? Put the seal on those who sigh and cry for abominations, and reported that I have finished. This man in writer's inkhorn, which we know is Christ, reported to God that mission has been accomplished on earth. And here it says, here is the first report. Listen to read the commentary on 1 TR 20.3 there. Here is the first report.
Here is the first report made at the completion of the sealing in the church.
Do you see that report is first reported after the sealing has been done only in the church, not everywhere else? So are you aware everyone else has not yet been sealed until all the sealing is done first in Laodicea? Are you aware about that? So the first report of the completion is done on Ezekiel 9 verse 11. Right, let's hear. So that's why the 144,000 are sealed as first fruits, meaning there's still second fruits coming. So if second fruits will come, they will be outside. Why? Because there will be a second report to say, I've also done. So the first report I've done, as I have commanded, occurs first in Ezekiel 9 verse 11, after the completion of the sealing of the church. Now let's go to 1 TR 21.1. I saw,
says this.
Here we are reading a commentary from Early Writings, page 279. If you have that book, EW 279. I saw,
says the servant of the Lord, an angel with a writer's inkhorn by his side, returned from the earth and reported to Jesus that his work was done, and the saints were numbered and sealed.
Right. So now it's putting it clear that this mighty angel is not Jesus, because the mighty angel reported to Jesus. But who is he? In another way, that's why we're saying, who is this mighty angel? It's not Jesus. But in other videos, when we were talking about the angels, we knew that Christ is called Michael. But heads up, before we go to that, could this be Michael, the archangel, or Christ's personal angel? We will find out with this man. Now here it says, this man came to report to Jesus to say, I've done it. I've finished. Now let's hear. That was early writing, telling us now that the angel with the writer's inkhorn by his side returned from earth and reported to Jesus that his work was done, and the saints were numbered and sealed. That's the first report there. Let's hear the commentary on 1 TR 21.1. Here is the second report.
Here is the second report made at the completion of the sealing in the world, the sealing of the second fruits, the great multitude.
So this return of early writings, page 279, is the second. Why? They've already finished now the world. So judgment begins in the house of God first. There is a first report. Then the second time, it occurs in the world, and the report from this angel comes to report to Christ to say, I'm finished. Now we're studying what to know, comparing, let's hear 1 TR 21.2, comparing both reports.
Each is seen to be of a different event. At the first report, the Lord was on the threshold of the house
Right?
on earth.
Right.
And at the second,
Now, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 3. Let's hear. That's the very first time we are told where the angel was. Listen to that.
at the first report,
Mhm.
the Lord was on the threshing of the house
Mhm.
on earth.
Mm.
At the second, he was in the heavenly sanctuary.
Did you see the places of the report were different in Ezekiel chapter 9? Go to the eastern, Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 3.
And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub,
Mhm.
whereupon he was to the threshold of the house.
Right. So this man with the writer's icon was to the threshold of the house of Laodicea in 9 verse 3. But here when the report was done after the 9 verse 11, we are told that this man went to report to Christ to say, I've done it. Now let's hear 1TR is commenting on Ezekiel 10 verse 2. Let's hear from Ezekiel 10 verse 2 from the East End.
After the angel had made his first report, the Lord commanded him, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thine hand with coals of fire from between the cherubims, and scatter them over the city. And he went in my sight.
Right. This is Ezekiel 10 verse 2. Right. Let's hear the comment. And first 1TR 21.4. Yeah. But following this, his second
But
report.
following his second report, all the angelic hosts laid off their crowns, as Jesus made the solemn declaration, He that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still.
Now, did you see there are two instructions? On Ezekiel 10 verse 2, when the report is made first, he is instructed to go in between the wheels. You understand? And fill thine hand with coals of fire from between the cherubims and scatter them over the seat. And you went in my sight. This is what Ezekiel said. When he reported in Ezekiel 9 verse 11 that I've done it, he was told now to go in between the wheels in Ezekiel 10 verse 2. Go in the wheel, between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thine hand with coals of fire between the cherubims and scatter them over the seat. And he went in my sight. But following his second report, which we saw in early writings, we saw the second report in early writing, page 279. What happened? I saw, says the servant of the Lord, an angel with a writer's icon by his side, returned from the earth and reported to Jesus that his work was done and the saints were numbered and sealed. Now, this is the second report. Now, we are told in the second report what happened. After the angel had made his first report, the Lord commanded. That's the first report. But following his second report, all the angelic hosts laid off their crowns. You see, these are two reports. The first report, he says, I've done in Ezekiel 9 verse 11, and is commissioned to go and fill the wheels with coal. And they started another work. But in the second report, he's told, we are told that all angelic hosts, who tells us that? It's Sister White. 279 early writing to 280. We are told all the angelic hosts laid off their crowns as Jesus made the solemn declaration, He that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. Do you get that? This is in early writing, page 279 and 280. So the report first, as it came to Christ, he was instructed to go back and fill the the wheels with the coals of fire. But when the report came second, the angelic host all laid their crowns, because Christ declared, now it's done. He that is filthy, let him remain filthy. Now, so there are two reports. You understand there? Now, let's go to Ezekiel 10, verse 19. I'm interested in that. And also Ezekiel 9, verse 11. The commentary on 1 TR 22.1.
Were probation to close at the time of the first report?
On Ezekiel 9, verse 11.
The Lord must, according to the foregoing statement, be in heaven, then descend to earth to receive his saints, instead of being already on earth, then mounting up in his throne, as he actually does, without his saints in Ezekiel 10, verse 19.
So the Lord was on earth when the first report was done. Did you see that? But when the second report is done, he's in heavenly throne, and the angelic hosts, they lay their crown on the floor. Now, let's read on 1 TR 22.2. Again.
Again, the prophets being left behind, when the Lord went up, figuratively shows that at this particular descent and ascent, the saints are not to be taken to heaven, but only to be set free from sin and sinners, fitted for the final work. Now,
when the report was done first, the saints are not straight away taken to heaven, because there's still a time to do the work to other churches and to the world. That's why when we see the saints sealed, the 144,000 on Mount Zion, they are now to start the work of evangelizing the earth with the same message, so that the second report is done by the angel to say we've finished, when the work is finished throughout the whole world. So there are two reports. The first report, when the church has been sealed, where the angel Ezekiel is commissioned to go and fill the coals of fire. And the second report, when it is done in heaven, where the angelic hosts lay down their crown. Do you understand those different ones? Now, at the angel's second report, listen to that.
At the angel's second report, however, Jesus, being in heaven, moved out of the most holy place.
In early writing, page 280, moves out of the holy place at the second report. Do you get that one? Right? This brief comparison
brings into primary focus the twofold fact that at the time of the first report, Jesus went into the temple, whereas at the time of the second report, he went out.
Now, on the first report, when he was told, I've done as in Ezekiel 9, verse 11, he went into the chariot back to heaven and in the temple. The second report, he was already in heaven and went out of the temple. The angelic hosts put their crown on the floor to say everything is finished. We are seeing that beyond the angels reporting the matter. Listen to that.
Beyond the angels reporting the matter of the marking and slaying in the church, Ezekiel was not given to see, but Isaiah was.
Right. So Ezekiel, beyond the angels reporting the matter of the marking and the slaying in the church, Ezekiel was not given to see, but Isaiah was. What did he see?
The escaped ones go to all nations. For by fire and by his sword declares the gospel prophet. Will the Lord plead with all flesh? And
that's Isaiah 66, verse 16. Isaiah now is given the slaughter being done. He sees by fire in verse 16, and by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. You see, this slaughter is seen exactly by Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah sees the slaying. Ezekiel was told that go and slay utterly. Now, who sees the slaying? Is Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 16 sees that for by fire and by his sword the Lord will plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be men. You see that? And let's hear more in verse 20, in verse 19 there. I will send.
And I will send those that escape of them unto the nations.
Now, those who escaped this slaughter are the 144,000 with the seal of God. So they now stand on Mount Zion, and they now escape the slaughter which was happening in Laodicea, and then stand on Mount Zion. And then these escaped ones are the 144,000 being sent now back to the whole world. Now the gospel is going to the other part of the world, which is not Laodicea. Now let's hear. And I will send those that escape. It's verse 19. Isaiah 66 verse 19.
And I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to the isles afar off, that have not heard of my fame, neither have seen my glory. And they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles.
Right.
And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations.
Now these now are being sent, the 144,000 are being sent to the Gentiles. And those who get the two messages, the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus, are sent to Jerusalem. Now listen to that.
To my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith the Lord, in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord. Since those that escape the slaughter shall bring all your brethren, all those who shall be saved in the time of the loud cry, into the house of the Lord, then it follows that those who escape are the ones who finish the work. The reason they are called the servants of God.
That's why the sealing in Revelation 7 clearly says, go and the 144,000 were all sealed as servants. You see now where they work. If you are a servant, you are a worker. Now you're going to work. So they are sealed to work. Where? To the Gentile world. They will bring all the brethren. So that's why now they are being sent throughout the whole world. In Isaiah chapter 6, we see in verse 11, what does it say? And the Gentiles now, is the time for the Gentiles. Laodicea has already been sealed, and those who refuse have already been judged. We saw them being judged by the slaying by the angels. And now the gospel has gone to the other Gentile world. Now in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 11, we see the 144,000, that's their work. Now listen to that. And the
Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory. And thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name.
Now there is a new name now. They are no longer called Christians. And we know the name. The name is the branch name, because they now follow Christ as the branch. So this is the new name that they are now being called. Listen to that. Therefore,
thy gates,
that one was Isaiah 62 verse 2. Now this one, therefore, Isaiah 60 verse 11. Thy gates
shall be
open now continually for the Gentile forces to come to Jerusalem. Listen to that.
They shall not be shut day nor night.
Right?
That men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought.
Now they are bringing the forces of the Gentiles, and the gates are open continually, the gates of Jerusalem continually, and the 144,000 are working and making sure now their work which they were sealed for as servants is done. You understand? So we can go and continue next time in that whole Exodus. How it's going to happen, so that you and I can see exactly what is going to happen after we receive the faith of Jesus. And then the loud cry starts in the church, and loud cry in the Gentile world, and all unite in the kingdom in Jerusalem. Before the going of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 16, going up to heaven, God has got to unite all the saints at one spot. You and I will believe. This is all coming from the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, to the law and to the testimony. May God bless you as we continue with the faith of Jesus being introduced first in the church and in the Gentile world. God bless you and blessed Sabbath.